There are some words that are so full with emotional significance that they can dramatically affect the way we behave when we hear them. The word no is probably one of the most emotive words there is, and many of us would do almost anything to avoid hearing it. But the most successful people know that if we are to be successful, we have to get over our fear of hearing the word no and learn to embrace no as a positive thing. If we can flip our mindset in that way, we remove fear of failure and set ourselves on the path to real success. So, if you have a business and you're talking to someone who's a potential client or customer, or maybe you're going for a job and you're speaking to a potential employer, what is the word that you most want to hear? What's the magic word that will make everything right? Well, of course, that word is yes. Because when we hear yes, we tend to equate it with success, with progress, with positivity. And the word we really don't want to hear, of course, is no. Because we equate no with failure, with rejection, with having to go back to square one. Now, when most of us start out in business, we have an idea of how our path to success will look. And for many of us, this is how it will look. We feel that the road to success is in one direction, and if we go that way, everything will be fine. If we go in another direction, that way leads to failure and rejection, and we should avoid going along that route under any circumstances. That's where we get the no's. That's where the failure is. But people who have achieved success, and the most successful people have learnt this very early on, is that the true path to success is not away from failure, but actually through failure. And to achieve very great success, actually we need to go through failure many, many times and hear many no's and experience many challenges and rejection. But if we're going to be successful, that's what we need to do. And the people who've been most successful understand this very well. I'm going to show you a list of people who have all failed multiple times. And you might be surprised by who's on this list. So Thomas Edison, one of the most famous examples, he said, "I've not just failed, I found 10,000 ways that won't work." He just kept going until he succeeded. Abraham Lincoln experienced many failures before he was elected President of the United States. At a very young age, he lost his mother, had to work to support his family. He failed in business more than once. His fiancée died. He had a nervous breakdown. He went for many jobs in the government and was turned down multiple times, but in the end, he persevered and he obviously succeeded. Winston Churchill again, many failures before success. Bill Gates, he failed his exams and dropped out of Harvard. His first business failed, and look at him now. Harlan Sanders of Kentucky Chicken fame, he only actually started to sell chicken or try to sell it when he reached retirement age and realised he couldn't afford to retire. And he spent years on the road being rejected by restaurant after restaurant until somebody agreed to buy his chicken. Babe Ruth, one of the most famous, successful sports people of all time, but many, many failures in order to achieve that success. Jordan Adler wrote a famous book called Beach Money. He succeeded massively in business, but it was, I believe, his 12th business venture that succeeded. The previous ones all failed. Michael Jordan said famously, "I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. 26 times I was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." So most successful people know that we don't avoid failure, we need to embrace it. When we first start out in business, we don't have all the skills that we're going to learn, and we'll probably hear no a lot more in the early days than later on. But we need to get over that, because nobody is born being afraid of the word no. If you're a parent, this may look like a familiar scenario. A small child will ask for something that they really want. When they're told no, they'll just ask again. They'll keep on asking and begging and pleading and maybe falling on the floor having a tantrum. They keep on going. And as a parent, I know that very often they'll just wear us down, and in the end they get what they want. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all behave like spoiled brats in our business, but there is a lesson to be learned here, because we're all salesmen. We're all selling something. We're selling our services, we're selling our products, we're selling our skills. If we're going for a job, we're selling what we are able to do. We're all salespeople, and so this figure is relevant to all of us. 92% of salespeople actually give up after they hear no from someone 4 times. But 60% of customers will say no 4 times before they finally say yes. So that 8% of salespeople are going to have a disproportionately large amount of success just because they keep going. Politely and persistently, they keep in touch with their potential customers, keep asking in a polite way, and eventually, very often, they get the yes. Skill is highly overrated. That might be quite controversial. But what I mean by that is, as we said at the beginning, when you're setting out in business, you don't have all the skills and you will hear no a lot. But somebody I admire immensely in business, Jim Rohn, he says that what you make up in numbers, what you lack in skill, you can make up in numbers. And what he means by that is that if you speak to more people, you will have more success. Jim Rohn said, if I have to speak to 10 people to get one of them to say yes, and you can speak to 10 people and 9 of them will say yes, I can still beat you in a competition. Because you'll speak to 10 and get 1, I'll speak to 100 and get 10. And that is a really valuable lesson, particularly when we're starting out. There's always a ratio of no's to yeses, and once we learn that ratio, we just have to plough on through the no's until we get the yeses. And the more we hear no, the less sensitive we'll be to it, the less it will affect us. If every no is emotionally wounding, we're going to give up. We need to desensitize ourselves quickly. To find the gold, we have to get rid of the mud. So we have to go through all those failures, all those people saying no to us, before we find the people. And there will be people who will say yes. And we don't just have to desensitize ourselves to no. If we can learn to embrace failure and embrace the no's, we'll do even better. If we set our goals for success, then we will hopefully achieve those goals, but not always. But if we set failure goals, it can be much more effective. What I mean by that is, say there is a salesman, and that salesman in a really good month will make 10 sales. But to get those 10 sales, he'll need to speak to 100 people. And say after the first week of a month, he's already made 8 sales. Now, if he set his goal to get 10 sales before the end of the month, if he's had 8 after a week, he's probably going to get a bit complacent. He may not work quite so hard. He's only got to get 2 more sales and he's got 3 weeks. Now, he'll probably get his 10 sales, but possibly not much more than that. But if he set his goal to get 90 people saying no to him, then if he's had a really good week, he probably is not where he should be in terms of his failure goal. And he's going to have to work really hard to get those 90 no's before the end of the month. And of course, if he does that along the way, he's going to get a lot more yeses. So setting a goal for failure, although it sounds odd, can be really, really a good strategy for success. If you're going to fail, fail big. So never decide not to go for something because it's just too big. It's too big a goal. It's too big a job. It would be such a coup if you got that piece of work. You just don't do it because it would be too big. And of course, if you failed, it would feel like a big failure. And you might fail, but if you succeed, what a massive success that would be. Of course, while we're going for no, with each individual conversation, we're of course going for a yes. We're doing our very best. And when we do fail, when someone says no to us, always ask for feedback. We keep the relationship friendly. We ask for their reasons why they've turned us down this time, because we learn so much more from failure than we do from success. Learn to fail exponentially. If you have a larger business and you employ people and you can make this a part of your company culture, then other people are embracing no on your behalf. This is what Thomas Edison did. He employed people to fail on his behalf. This is what he said. And it just meant that that eventual success was guaranteed. Celebrate your successes, of course, as we all do, but also celebrate your failures. Because remember, you have to go through the no's to get the yeses, and you're working just as hard talking to someone who eventually turns you down as you are when someone eventually says yes to you. So celebrate both. Remember, yes is the destination. We want to hear yes, we want to be successful. But in order to get to that destination, we have to go through many, many no's, many, many failures. So I hope this has brought value for you, and thank you very much for listening.